You are listening to Within Tolerance, a podcast for machinists by a machinist. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson of Protein Machining. And this week, second time in a row, I think that we're on number 6 in a row or in person together?
Yeah, I think so.
But Zap is in studio, came down from Phoenix again. What's up, dude?
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I was really fired up all day. I was really fired up all day. And then I drove down here and I was like, we ate those burritos and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
I'm chilling.
I'm glad you came down because all day, it hasn't been a bad day, but it was one of those days where I'm just not feeling it.
Yes.
Very much. And I almost texted you, just be like, forget it, dude. I want to go home. I want to go to bed.
No.
But I'm very glad I did.
Yeah. Now we're hanging out, recording. It's going to be good.
Exactly. So the last one we recorded was actually 3 weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah.
We caught up on IMTS. We caught up on your crazy travel after IMTS.
Right.
What's been going on, man?
Well, still traveling.
Yes.
But it's been less. I think I left here. I went to California. And then I went to somewhere else, I think. I went to Maryland. Right. I was in Maryland for 2 weeks. With a little break in between where I got to be at home for a day and a half, which was pretty nice. Mm-hmm. But then I what the hell else did I do? Oh, I was in California this last weekend and I did the cool guy thing of take a late flight from Baltimore to California, work all weekend, take a flight back to Baltimore, drive 6 hours home.
Yeah.
Sleep for 2 hours and then go to work. And I was so pissed off.
Well, you sent me a message at I think 10 or 11 my time.
Yeah.
And you're like, I've got 6 more hours of driving and crying face. I'm like, can you pull over and just sleep?
I will. It'll be okay. I did pull over and sleep. And I regretted it because by the time that hour cost me because of traffic. There's a lot of traffic in New York City and fucking Connecticut. I hate Connecticut. Connecticut traffic's the worst. I don't know what it is, but
really,
I'd rather drive in California.
Huh.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
I haven't done a lot of driving on the East Coast.
Yeah,
so
I've done a lot of driving on the East Coast.
You've done a lot of driving, period.
Yeah, that's true. But no, I mean, just a lot less travel, a lot more finishing things. I mean, I think this week we wrapped up 3 projects and I think I'll get another one or hopefully 3 or 4 more next week, which is nice. The stint in Maryland was really interesting. I'm really bad. Sometimes I'm really bad at this where it's they're we just need you to program. And so then I show up and it's so what are we doing? What are we programming? And do you have a tool library or whatever? What's the deal? And there's 140 tools on the machine. 37 of them are modeled and most of them are modeled incorrectly.
Oh, man.
And then they were talking about switching, cause they use Mastercam to Inventor Cam because then they can just have that's what they draw in and they can do this all more uniformly.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I just did that, for them. I hadn't ever used it before, but it was the weirdest shit ever. Cause we started doing it and then they were the guy who wanted to do it also was well, I don't know about doing that now. It's well, wait, what? And then modeled up 140 other tools and made their tool library. So we have a very legit tool library. Got the kid, there's a kid there. I think I don't know. I call him a kid. He just seems young. But he got him on Inventor and making 5-axis programs. I told his boss, I was oh, I mean, I can we can get him, if we give him Camplete, we can get him doing programs for the Haberly in a day. He's how does that work? It's well, he just programs for them. And we have the tool library. So then we built the template. So he just does it.
Right.
And he did.
Yeah.
It was, and using the component replace in Inventor for like parts that were also drawn in Inventor was like pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because like for very similar part, like some of them were like very, very similar, or you just like the toolpaths were like 1-to-1 exactly the same, like in terms of features. And so you like program a whole part in like 15 seconds, which is like, that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's sweet. And
Yeah.
like the more 3D toolpaths you use, the easier it is, because like the less things you have to reselect.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's how it was for this, where it's like with the holes, if you like the holes are the same size, like hole, same size, Z plane, whatever, check. Okay. And it's like, got it.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, all right. That's pretty sweet.
All of that stuff works great. Speaking of which, Phil Mestenhauser's AU class now on the whole ancestry, this kind of
the lineage thing.
I'm building off your replace component thing, because that's very strong in Fusion as well.
Yeah.
And if anybody listening, I think it's stronger. Yeah, because there's a lot more tools in the toolpaths to leverage that as well.
Right.
But I will link it in the show notes. You gotta go watch it. Like if you watched Rob Lockwood's container method class, this is a jumping off and reframing of that. Like the best line I think from it is that, we have tool libraries, we have machine libraries, we have post libraries, we don't have work holding libraries. And that's what this whole thing allows you to do.
It's very cool. And I think Justin from Toolpath like released a bunch of stuff on his GitHub for it too.
Oh,
like,
probably.
Like models.
Yeah.
At least for the Lang stuff, HWR stuff, whatever. Yeah, he just like, you can just go get it from him. He just has the F3D file, I think, on his GitHub.
Phil does too on his Git. He has got like the one that that you follow along in his video on his GitHub as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. That stuff seems like magic.
Yeah. Yeah, not to derail you, but like you were talking about replace, and I was like, oh, I want to make sure that people know that this is out now.
Right. Yeah, it is like Fusion it's wild to say, but like Fusion is like much more powerful than Inventor, especially on the CAM side.
Oh yeah, that's what happens when you end of life something but don't tell people about it.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up because like I was like, oh well, the assembly environment in Inventor has to be good, or at least better than Fusion. And it's like, oh no, this is worse than Fusion.
I haven't used it, so I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like it's even less intuitive than like SolidWorks is my number one still. Like it gives you, I mean, plus or like pro or con, depending on how you look at it. Like I like that I can like take two holes and make them concentric and both the parts will still spin around each other. And then I get to decide how it's constrained beyond that, which like Fusion kind of wants to like do multiple steps at once for you. And Inventor, like sometimes you don't even get that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was like very, I mean, and I have only been using it for like, I don't know. I think I have like 9 days left on the 30-day trial or whatever. I did this whole thing off the trial because I was like, I'm not going to buy it.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know. It seems like what they like just going through like the like Autodesk forums, what they're banking on is that you're using the like origin, like all your parts are like modeled dead center, everything. So you can use the origin planes to align things, which is fucked up.
Interesting.
Yeah, there was some shit. I was like, I don't know. I'm probably gonna get people that are gonna like DM me and be like, "You're a fucking idiot."
Oh,
like,
I'm sure you will. Yeah,
yeah. This is so easy and lay out some like fucking convoluted like 20-step process or whatever.
Yeah, it's frustrating that they have not kept up updating Inventor CAM alongside Fusion, because like I understand, I can at least understand, like I've heard the reason that they kind of abandoned HSM Works is that SolidWorks and Dassault don't really want to play nice with them and give them UI access to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but there's no excuse for the fucking product that
they own. Yeah, exactly. And it would give people a secondary path to like an ITAR solution if they wanted that with all the Fusion goodness.
Yeah, and keeping it in the family. Like it makes so much sense. And like it's pretty close. You know, you still have like your 2D adaptive and your 3D adaptive. You don't have like flat tool path,
right?
which kind of sucks.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Is like all the module work stuff. I don't think will ever be there.
No, which is like really annoying because some of that stuff is like the menus are very stripped down for all the tools. Like the contour select is really annoying. Like you don't get silhouette or anything like that, which is like fuck. So you have to start like selecting weird sketches and like how when you do the like edge selection, like open versus closed, and it in Fusion, and you can kind of start selecting things. If it selects stuff for you, and like there was nothing that indicated that this was the case, but like to unselect certain lines on the model, you had to like control click and in Inventor.
Right.
But there's like, how would I know that? Other than, I mean, I just kind of fucked around and tried it and it worked. Right. But it's like, what the fuck is this?
That's the same in Fusion if you want to unselect something.
Right. But I mean, typically it's like, if I want to select a single line of like a feature, typically you can just select that line in Fusion and it just selects that line. But there was like only the tangential chain in Inventor for like some of it. And I'm like, why are you doing this to me?
Right.
What did I do to you? And it's kind of frustrating or whatever. But at the end of the day, we were able to program like really fast.
Awesome.
And they were like, oh, like, does the tool library help? And it's like, yeah, I just programmed that part in like 45 minutes. The fucking other guy, Will probably listen to this. But I mean, like, he was working on a program for like 2 weeks, like while I was there. And like, there's a whole thing. I mean, him and I got into it actually about tool libraries. I don't feel bad about talking about this because like we yelled at or mostly it was me yelling at him about the tool library and how like the guy that runs the Haberly out there, if he sets up a tool, that's it. Like, period. Right. Like that is added to the library. He'll never break it down, which is extreme. You know, but I like, and like it's from afar, it's like, it's kind of intense. Like, why would you do that? Because you end up with like a lot of holders just kind of sitting around.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, like having 4 different 1/8 inch end mills in there is kind of nice. Like, it's like, well, the one that's sticking out 1 inch, I don't need that one. So I'll grab the one that's sticking out 1/2 inch. And it's tool like 19 and 119. And you just have like a bunch of tools, like so many tools. And the Will doesn't like that because it's not optimized for the part, you know? And this was like a big thing. And I don't know if we've ever like really discussed this, but I guess it's worth discussing in general is kind of the, like, not, I don't want to say like this is a bad way to go about, I don't know. But like the point of the tool library is to be like somewhat universal. Right. Like with your standard tools, like these are the tools that are going to cover 80% of my work or whatever. And then if I have to build something else, then that's either like, this is what I say, like having like 2 or 3 libraries where you have like your standard tool library and then shit that you set up frequently, but it might not be set up all the time. And then just like random bullshit that is like, this is one off for a job that like, whatever. And it doesn't have to, like, it's almost never going to be optimized for a single part. And trying to like optimize your tool library for every single part, either you're doing what this guy does and building every single fucking tool that goes out there, or you just compromise a little bit on your speeds and feeds. And like, you're not like getting after it, so to speak, for like every single one, but you can program quickly. And like when you hone in on like toolpath libraries or whatever, then you're just kind of like churning through parts.
Right. Well, and I think that's, I got 2 things jumping off what you said. So A, not using a tool library is like going to fix a car with a shopping bag full of tools instead of something laid out in a tool case.
It's like going to fix a car with like a Leatherman and you're like, something in here's got to help me.
Right. Yeah, like, exactly. You're like, I don't know what's in it. I'll just dig around in the bag until I find what I need.
Yeah.
Rather than like a nicely laid out case. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay. The socket's exactly where I want it. Like I'm not wasting time finding the tools I need. And B, you're just optimizing for different things. Like obviously if I'm going to run 10,000 of something, I'm going to shorten that tool up until only exactly what I need is sticking out. So it's as rigid as possible and I can cook with it.
Right.
But like if my optimization is about making the most unique parts.
Yeah. And they're making like 3,000 or 4,000 different part numbers a year through their shop. So that's like 10 a day.
Yeah. So like it doesn't matter. Cycle time is almost never going to be the driving force then. It is programming time that you need to optimize for because that's the expensive part.
Yeah.
Especially on a Haberly.
Yeah.
Like cycle time is cheap because you can just load up a few different palettes with a few different programs and go program your next part.
And that's what that guy does. Like the dude that runs the machine, it's wild because he's old as shit. Like he's 65.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And like he like, dude, like, cause I mean, I've been like very emotional, you know, like we've been talking about the old crying crush,
man.
Yeah. And like when I was out there, I was really emotional and like I was getting yelled at a lot. I mean, I still get yelled at a lot by customers who like want to like, it's getting better now that I'm like finishing things.
Right.
But like, it's been just like people like, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? It's like, bitch, dude, I'm fucking trying. They're like, I need you here. It's like, you think I like this? Yeah. Like, I don't like this either. Like, I'm gonna go fucking cry in the parking lot.
Well, like, a week or so ago, I was like worried about you because you were just saying to me, I mean, not things that like were scary, but just like, you're like, dude, I just feel like I'm letting everybody down and everybody's yelling at me. And I was like,
it's been pretty gnarly. And so like, this guy was like, he's like, working with you's been great. Like, he's like, I've learned more from you in like the couple weeks that you've been here than I have in like the fucking 4 years of owning this machine. And I was like, fucking thanks, dude. Like legit, like almost.
You cut onions in here?
Yeah. And, but like he is very like, it's interesting because like he's not very open to certain things. Like the guy, like him and Will don't get along. I mean, everybody knows that. But like, I mean, all the listeners.
Everybody knows who you're talking about.
And so like when Will does dynamic toolpaths, he's like, no, but when I do it, he's like, all right. It's like, okay. And like, but he's like kind of embraces the probing and whatever, but like he's funny because like he'll get sometimes when there's a lot of shit, like when you're like flooding them with programs, he's just like, like, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But then he's like, you just like walk away and let him figure it out and then he's okay. But that was like really, he's very good. He's just old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to see the mentality of like, of having a tool library and like trying to maintain it from somebody who's not a programmer, you know? Cause like, that's what he's trying to do to make their lives easier.
Right.
And the programmer doesn't like it because he wants to be able to like really tune in. Like essentially tool 19 is for 1/8 inch in mills. And then I'm going to dictate what the stick out is. And the setup person needs to change tool 19 every time we do a program. And like, that's where we really started to get into it. Cause I was like, you don't understand the concept of a tool library.
Right.
That's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I do. It's like, no, like, it should like your life should be easier and the setup person's life should be easier.
Right.
Like that's it. Not just yours.
Like, well, to me, it's kind of wild in general to own something like a Haberly and be doing prototype parts and have a setup person.
Yeah.
Because like if you're programming all these things with 100 and whatever tools, so you're probably not having to set that many tools or you shouldn't be.
Right.
You're running it through Complete.
Yes.
What is the setup person like? Are they just putting stock in vices and putting it in the machine?
Correct. Yeah. And like measuring stuff and whatever and just like making sure that it's because like some of them they are running like 2 parts, 10 parts, whatever. So sometimes they finish and then he's just like, well, that was like those 2 parts will run for like 45 minutes and then those get changed to something else. and it just like kind of keeps it fed because they really, really like they're like OEE pilled super hard. And so they're getting like 150 hours of uptime a week or something like that out of that
Jeez.
thing. Like they are really getting after it.
That guy's cooking then.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
awesome.
And they only run one shift.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that's why they're like very diligent about making sure that thing is fed.
Then they should be very diligent about keeping the tool library pristine.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah. And that was like the thing. Cause I started programming for the maze X, like the horizontals. And he's like, I have a tool library, but you can like just do whatever you want. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you can, I mean, like you call out the holder, but they're just going to put it in whatever holder they feel like. It's like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's like, this breaks my fucking brain. I don't like this.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I'm glad simulation will mean absolutely nothing.
Right. I was
Cool.
like, so and he's like, it's fine. It's just the setup person has to do the job. And I'm like, you guys don't ever crash. And he's like, I'm not saying that. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. And so that was Maryland. It was good. It was a really good trip. Like I enjoyed it a lot and we got a lot of progress done. And kind of during that time when I was like, oh God, I'm fucking traveling too much, whatever, I reached out to an old customer. This is like, and that like we did the big automation project that didn't go well. And then the other cutting project that did go well, but like fizzled out because their customer like got fucked. Well, I don't know how you even describe that, but like they launched a satellite and it didn't deploy.
Oh, okay.
In space. So it's total loss.
Yeah.
And so they went from like ramping to, they went from like doubling production to like having production because they were going to launch 3 of these satellites. But as soon as the first one doesn't go, and it's like $120 million loss or whatever, they're like, well, you're not just fucking firing 2 and 3 up there and hoping for the best. So, but that one, well, I mean, that project was like still kind of fucked though. Like, and that was just from like a scope standpoint, which has been like, I mean, that's just my whole struggle.
Right.
But I reached out to them because they're like, they're putting in this like Maze Excel like 20 minutes from my house. And I was like, hey, I heard you guys are doing this. Like, do you want help? And like, he calls me and they're like up my ass about this, you know? And I was like, it was very fascinating because if we're going to use you, we need to make sure that like everything's properly scoped and like where everything's going, what like we're like dialed in and you can commit to this and blah, blah, blah. And today, like I went there, they don't have like anything, like the machines aren't even like installed and they don't know what parts they're going to put on it and all this other stuff. And then we were chatting today, like kind of like a recap because napkin math, if they were going to tool it up like 100%, I think just like conservatively, it's like $1 million in like tombstones and fixtures and tools.
Oh my goodness.
You know, I mean, and you don't have to spend all that right now.
Right.
You don't
still.
But like that's eventually what I would expect to spend on that. I mean, it's 48 pallets and 480 tools. Jeez. You know, so you know it's somewhere in that range that you're gonna do whatever. And so we were chatting today, and they're like, so walk us through what you were thinking, and I did, and I was just like, so what was the plan? Like, what was the original plan? Because like I don't really see, like, you guys still don't know what parts you want to put on this cell. So I don't know, like, you were expecting this to help you in Q4 now.
Right.
The machines aren't installed and you don't know what parts you're going to put on there. So like, what was the plan? And they're like, well, you got it right. And like, it was like, the plan was like in somebody's head and they don't work there anymore. And
Ooh.
It's like, okay. And I think it seemed like he might have like tried to pull like a fast one or something, like just not pull the fast one, but like get this cell in there and like make it like take all this vertical work and put it on the horizontals and blah, blah, blah. And like, oh, this isn't going to be that bad. You just do whatever. And like, it's easy. It's no problem. But then there's tombstones and there's tools, tool holders, but they're all like 2.5 inch gauge length holders, which is really bizarre because they're like really short.
Right.
Like, so, and like the tombstones are wide, like really wide. So I was like, I don't know if these are going to work. And they're like, why? It's like, well, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Because I don't know what parts you're going in here.
And so it's just like a very fascinating thing. Cause they're like, yeah, we don't really know. But then they're like, but if we're going to do it, we really need the scope to be dialed in. And it's like, I don't know what the scope is. You don't know what the scope is at this moment. It was, I mean, I want to do it because it's 20 minutes from my house and it'd be a really, like, it seems like a fairly long-term project, really. So that's like hot, but it's just funny.
Well, it's like somebody asking you to go on a road trip and they're like, how long is it going to take? And you're like, where are we going? And they're like, no. How long is it going to take before we start? And you're like,
right.
Again, I don't know where we're driving.
Right. And it's like, I don't know, anywhere between like 6 and like 40 hours.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Man, wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
I mean, that one, I don't know. I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not holding my breath for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like we've been doing all right. I mean, I've been in a better mindset since fucking just finishing things, you know?
Yeah.
And whatever, but I don't know. We could let's just talk about you now. That'll be easier.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. So last time we were awaiting delivery of the U500 and of the saw. We sold the S700. Mm-hmm. All of that went off really well.
Nice.
Yeah. So
U500 smashing right now.
No. But install and getting it in the shop, like, you know, rigging on its own is kind of a stressful thing. Machine left, the S700 left. It actually made it to its new owner safely. I met the truck driver. He was like, I don't know, not much older than me, and like we ended up chatting all morning and kind of hanging out. Super cool guy.
Nice.
Yeah, so it left. Saw is here. U500 is here. Yamazin was fantastic and like was here the next day to start install. Nice. So it was installed by like that weekend.
Oh yeah.
Technically, Saw still isn't installed. They're supposed to be here.
That thing is fucking massive too.
It's way bigger than it looked in the show.
Like, which is like I was like we were saying before. Like we got on mic is like, things look a little bit smaller when you're in McCormick. Like, it's just like tens of thousands of square feet around it.
Yeah. But I'm really stoked for it. Like we have had basically almost every day this week, something that we really needed to put on that saw.
Yeah.
And Brad's had to go to his old job and use their saw quite a bit.
What is the holdup there?
They were just booked out. He was like, oh yeah, we're booked out till the 28th. And I was like, I want you here the 29th then. He was like, okay. Yeah. And then I emailed him today and he was like, yeah, I'll be showing up like the evening of the 29th. So really we'll get started the 30th. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I was like, is there anything else you need from us to get started?
Right.
Crickets. I'm like, cool. So I'll email him again Monday and be like, just making sure machine has power. Is there anything else you need?
Oh, that reminds me real quick of like, I sent out an estimate like a couple of weeks ago. I sent you this text and like I sent one out and they didn't accept it. And then, so I was like, well, I guess that time, like I booked that time and they didn't accept it the first time. And they're like, so you're good to go for this week. And I'm like, no, I booked it. And they're like, what? I was like, maybe the week of the 28th, you know? And then I sent it and then they reached out to me and they were like, the only thing that they said was, oh, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, like, why, like, it wasn't this much before. And these are the guys who told me to raise my prices.
Right.
And I was like, they're like, hey, I was like, you told me to raise my price. So I raised my price. He's like, I didn't mean for me. And it's like, well, you know, language is important. and that was it. That was literally it. And so then I get hit up today, like, hey, so you coming out next week? And I was like, no. And he's like, are you serious? All you said was that it was too expensive.
Right.
And you didn't, and I rescinded the estimate, but they're like, I thought we signed the estimate. And I was like, I don't have that. And then that was it. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, if you don't commit, I'm not committing.
Right.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, and you sent them, like, it would be one thing if you usually operated over text or something, but you sent them an estimate.
Yeah.
And they said, you're too expensive.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, all right, done.
Right.
Like and that was that I sent it. This is fine. Like, cause Justin hit me up today. He's like, why did you send them an estimate? And I was like, hold on. Like, wait a minute. Cause I've more or less committed to like not taking on any more work for the rest of the year to like make sure that I can catch up.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I would take on at this point would be the job in Massachusetts, just so that I can, cause it's close to my house. So I'm like, I'll break the rule for the convenience of getting to be at home.
Right.
But Justin was like, what the fuck are you doing? And it's like, hold on. Yeah. Cause I pumped the brakes, like, and especially as soon as they were like, oh, it's too expensive, I rescinded it. Cause I'm like, I don't need to be doing, like, I don't need to stress myself out anymore. And then, like, truly, like, at this point, there's like no amount of money that they could, unless it, oh, well, that's not true. If it was like 100, obviously, if they were like, here's $100,000,
right.
Like, sure. But I have the opportunity to finish up like legitimately like 4 projects between now and next Friday.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Versus like, it's like $10,000 for the week or finish up 4 projects.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Especially because, he reached out to me and said to say hi to you, and also good for you for telling them off. Because, like,
Justin?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It feels like Jason and I were talking about this earlier, that a lot of the, like, part of my issues with poor scope is just like, I need money. Mm-hmm. So like, whatever gets the money going, like, we'll fucking figure it out. And when you're in it, that makes sense. But now, like, when you start negotiating what is the end of the project in the middle of the project, well, you have a fucking problem, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, getting to, did I already fucking say this today or on this? I don't know. Getting to done is like one of the biggest things that, like, what is done, defining finished is something that, like, is one of those things, like, well, duh.
Right.
Like, obviously. But
it's easy for someone like me. My done is part shipped. For you, like, if they have an issue a week later, is that still part of the scope? Is it, it's like, I understand that a service-based thing like that can be a little bit more gray area.
Yeah, that's why, like, it's so weird to like fire up my fucking ex-girlfriend's like boundary course or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
I still gotta look that over.
Yeah, it was like, it's a very different perspective on the whole thing, but I was like going through it and I was like, fuck, this is good. Like, this is good.
Well, you sent it to me, and I don't remember. It's like,
this is not the right link, because it's like boundary setting for for introverted service providers.
That's what it is.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And it is very, like, it's solid. Like, I was like, it's one of those things, like, it's like with every business book, though, when you read, nothing is going to be one-to-one what you do. This is just like very soft compared to like what our industry.
Yeah. Well, and it was just the link too. Like, I can't remember what the website page is called.
It's called Teachables, or her thing is, because she's into Lord of the Rings, is the Fellowship of the Wallflowers.
There you go.
Yeah. And then it's
so I saw that
with a plant over her face.
Yeah. So I saw that, and I saw this, and I'm like, I feel like Chris sent me the wrong link. Well, so I got it while I was driving, and I saw the link, and I was like, oh, great. Somebody hacked Chris's phone, because this is not a link. All it said was like, check this out. And then like some random link. And I'm like, great. Now I'm gonna have to figure this out.
Right.
But then you like said some more things, and I was like, all right, this is Chris still. Okay. But then, I looked at it. I was like, I think you sent me the wrong link.
Yeah, no, I just did a poor job of like describing how like this is tangential as fuck to what we do, because it is like very much geared towards like, she's a hairdresser or whatever, so it's geared towards that. But I was like, setting boundaries and whatever is still like true to like, it's not as interpersonal. Like, I'm not fucking touching people all day.
Right.
But it is something of like, what is finished? Like, scheduling, making myself too available, which is a problem like with my East Coast customers sometimes where I work. I support them on their first and second shift, which is like 5 a.m. to like 11 p.m. East Coast time. And so that's like really brutal.
Yeah.
And those guys were yelling at me a lot.
Really?
Yeah. It's really hard to be called a failure.
Yeah.
Know? Like that sucks and annoying, but they still give me more work. So I don't know. It's like, it's
because you go above and beyond.
Yeah.
But no, I was stoked that you told me that you set some boundaries with one of your customers out west. I think they were a West Coast one.
Yeah. So I'm going there next week to finish some stuff up. But I was like, we got to a point where they talked me down. This was like, again, like March or April. I was broke. I just needed cash. And they were like, yeah, so we need these forecastings done and we want you to reprogram them instead of using what we have. And it's like, okay. And we think that's a 2-week project. I was like, I think it's a 3-week. And they're like, well, we'll do 2 and then go from there. And it's like, all right. Then we get into it and like, it kind of like there's just weird tooling issues. They're just not giving me enough information. And like, it's just weird. Like the first trip, I think their linear system went down at the end and we just had to stop, which is annoying. And then like we finally get a part off and it took them 10 days to measure the part. And it's like, I was like, is this going to be like this every time? And I'm like, no. So the second part, 7 days to measure the part. And so I just emailed him recently. I was like, I can't support this. Like, I cannot support this. So like, I think what we can do is just I'll get everything set up and running and make sure it runs. And then you guys can dial it in. Cause like, I can't support a week per part.
No.
Like what, like if I'm I just like does not make any sense whatsoever. And they were like, yeah, that works. That's cool. Cause like, yeah, it's another one. It's just like poorly scoped on both sides. And,
right.
And of course, like they're just mad at me and they're just like, oh, this is a lot of money for us. This is a lot of money for us. And it's like, okay.
Right.
Like I'm sorry. I don't know. Like you agreed to it.
Well, clearly they've got other problems if it takes them 7 days to inspect a part.
Yeah, they have some pretty interesting. They have a pretty interesting situation over there. But yeah, so that's one of the ones like that'll wrap up next week because it becomes like a lot clearer what we're doing. We don't really have to like go too crazy. Just like, it looks like a part, cut all the features. Like now it's just like dialing in heights and depths and blah, blah, blah. So that's easy. Yeah, doing stuff like it feels weird like to do that because I don't like to do that. You want to finish.
Right.
But also it's like if I kill myself for these guys who like kind of hate my guts, like
right.
What's the fucking point?
Yeah, I mean it sounds like from day one they're already harping on you for costs and stuff, which is a terrible way to start a project.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's what I'm like. I think I was telling you like these guys want to like sign a retainer, but they don't want to sign a retainer. And
these are the same people?
No, different people. This is like a different guy. Like, and the retainer's like very straightforward. Like, it's this much per month. If you want me to travel, you pay for that. Like, or we could like eat into the cost of the retainer, whatever. And they're like, well, no, what we want to do is do these 2 separate site visits for the same amount as the retainer cost per month. Like, okay. And then maybe we'll do the retainer for like a couple months, but I don't know. And it's like, why don't we just do it for 2 months? I'll do the visits. You get more shit. Like, and they're like, no. We just want to pay like, and then 2 separate emails of like, we want to pay per visit. Like, and it's like, what is going on? Like you're asking for the same shit, but like, it's like this weird, like bait and switch type of thing.
Right.
Like, it's like, I just like kind of stopped responding to the emails because it's like, this is too complicated. Like you're overcomplicating. Like, I'm like, this is what I want to do. And they're like, no. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Bye. Yeah. I'm busy, so I don't need to do this.
Dude, that's so frustrating.
Yeah.
That is incredibly frustrating.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, so back to delivery and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I fucking yeah. I was like tangent. Yeah. And it's 10 p.m.
Yeah. We're this is the normal in-person kind of podcast.
Right. The coffee and tea is kicking in.
Yeah. But we'll slowly slip into madness over the next hour.
Slowly. I've been fucking crazy since I got here, dude. Yeah.
So machines got delivered. Everything's good. Saw gets installed next week. U500, the machine itself, awesome. Super cool. It is surprisingly, like I knew it was going to, it's based on an S500. I knew the S500 is smaller than an S700, but it's smaller. Like it's significantly smaller.
The thing that was interesting right away is how tall the trunnion is from like the base of the axes. And like, so it gives like this perception of like very limited Z travel and the A0 C0 can fit like position, but it's pretty good. I mean, cause you're like when it's like, oh, it looks kind of small, but it's like you're in a 120 millimeter holder plus like a tool that's sticking out like 50 millimeters or something like that. Yeah. So it's like, got plenty of fucking space here. You can put some big ass tools.
Well, and
big ass parts.
What I didn't realize is the trunnions on top of where the table would have been.
Right.
But it has an integrated riser on the spindle as well. Yeah. So it has like the one that you can add to Speedios and robo drills, whatever it is, a 5-inch or 6-inch riser or whatever.
300. Robo drills typically have like 1 or 300 millimeter.
So it's probably a 300 millimeter riser or whatever. So super cool. Post is mostly dialed.
Okay.
There's been some weird stuff that like was easy to overcome, but definitely some weird stuff.
Sure.
And I don't know if it was Fusion being weird or the machine being weird or a little bit of both, or I don't know. Just like some weird simulation stuff, or not even simulation stuff, but like code plus simulation stuff that just it was some weird behavior. I don't even know how to describe it. But that's all sorted now. Had to do some interesting stuff like home all the rotary axes before any of the other ops, because if you turned on G68.2 and it was at machine home, which is 22.5 degrees off of my like G56 home.
Yeah.
Because it's a G68, it would just keep the table kicked at 22.5 degrees and run the code at a tilted work plane, but turned.
That's
also
fucking weird.
It was just very strange, which would also make the simulation wrong. Because the simulation doesn't know that like, the machine home is 22.5 degrees off.
Yeah.
So we just had to learn little things like that. It has 1,000 PSI through spindle coolant, which is pretty badass. Yeah. It's my highest machine on in that case. Like the Herm was 600, I think.
Oh, okay. Get fucked.
The biggest issue right now, and Yamazon's working really hard to fix it or to figure out a different way around it, is that like the kinematic comp program is not quite perfect from Bloom. Not Yamazon's fault. They're doing an amazing job kind of figuring all this out, but been a little frustrating. So people saw me cutting calibration cubes. It gets you in the neighborhood right now, which it should be good. Yeah. Really good. And it's not.
Right.
So I've just been kind of dialing it in the last little bit.
Yeah. And if I may, the fucking tool setter bracket thing is really hokey.
Yeah. I think I said that even on the episode when I went to demo one. Yeah. It's just stupid.
It's very bizarre. Like saying it and seeing it is like, wow. It's just hanging out. It's like literally just hanging in space.
Yep.
Like, what the fuck?
So I'll be redesigning that at some point here and figuring out. I'll probably just anchor. I'll use that same place, but also anchor it and tie it into the bottom, like towards the table.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just how it should be.
Yeah.
Like every other tool setter mount on the planet.
Right.
I mean, I guess there's like the weird, flip out ones and stuff that some machines have, but even those look more rigid than this thing does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The jack in the box.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't really have like a lot to report on that machine. We're kind of just trying to dial it in the last little bit so we can start making parts on it. Yeah, all the holders are clean and ready to start being loaded. I'll probably do that next week, but we've just been so busy that it's tough.
Good problem.
Yeah, really, really good problem. And Hermla's been kicking ass. Brad started putting... So when we bought all the Lang stuff for the U500, we also bought another 2-fold plate for the F600.
So it's full.
Yeah, it'll be the entire travel in X will be full.
Hell yeah.
And so he was starting to dial that all in today. I'm starting to set up to put Lang studs in the bottom of the last 2 orange vices that don't have it in our shop.
Yeah.
So that'll be done early next week. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
You're supposed to talk about the oven. Can you talk about the oven?
Yeah. So I talked about getting the annealing oven last time. It showed up. It's awesome. It really is as cool as it as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
The programming app that's on my computer is literally drag and drop. Like you drag, you're like, oh, I want a ramp. And then you tell it where you want it to go and how long it takes. And then you're like, I want it to stay at this temperature. And it's like, how long do you want it to take? And you tell it. And then you're like, I want it to ramp back down. And then if you need it to vent during the ramp back down so it cools off quicker, you can tell it what percentage to open the vent. And it just works and is really easy. And definitely learned some things the first time.
Right.
And I'm going to say this, and I know everyone listening is going to be like, yeah, Dylan, you're an idiot. Yeah. That's obvious. But so
I think you got a good brain, Jack.
So the first part I did on it were these big Delrin blocks.
Yeah.
And I annealed the blocks after they were just blocks. Then I put Lang studs in it. Then I threw it in the Hermla and roughed it out a ton and left a 1/8 inch everywhere. And then I annealed it again. And then it was really tough to get it back into a Lang plate because the whole part, like I basically created a U shaped or like a bowl shaped and it flexed, obviously, and kind of pulled all the studs away from each other so that they weren't quite facing down again. And it was just close enough that I could still get it back in the Lang plate, but it was a fight to get them in there.
Yeah.
It all worked out. I finished the part, flipped it over into a fixture, took off the block that had all the studs in it, and the parts came out really consistent. It is definitely working and doing what we wanted. We also did some nylon this week. Same thing. Parts that the raw stock got all wonky. Parts came out dead flat though.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And so you kind of mentioned like the initial plan was tape and glue, but then when they came out wonky, you had to pivot a little bit.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's just kind of what I do is
art of the pivot.
Yeah. I just, flip flopped them back and forth until I could,
the old flippy flop.
Yeah. Thankfully it all worked out, but yeah, I think that this is going to be a real force multiplier on plastic parts in the future.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
It's super
also
cool.
Like it just looks cool.
Yeah.
Like just straight up. It kind of looks like a mini fridge.
It does. Well, before you leave, I'll turn on like the displays so you can see them both come on, and it's neat. It's really, really neat. And what's crazy about it is that, and I don't think we've taken it over 350 Fahrenheit, whatever that is in Celsius.
Yeah.
But like 350 Fahrenheit, you can touch every panel on the entire thing and it feels room temperature.
Interesting.
So like we put it kind of off and behind the Hermla.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really want it that close to like our most precise machine.
Yeah.
And then on the first ramp up, I'm like, all right, like a fan back here is going to affect the Hermla more than this thing is because like it literally you cannot feel.
That is very impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how much was that thing?
$4,000.
That's not bad.
Well, so I'm sure some people listening to this and they're like, I can't believe you spent $4,000 on an annealing oven. But
I mean, it seems like a no-brainer.
Well, and we were looking at used ones from a different company. So this one's from, I don't know if it's Mimer or Mimert or whatever. It's German, so probably Mimert or something like that.
Yeah.
But there was another company, Dispatch, that makes them.
Okay.
And used one of those were like $2,800 to $3,500.
Oh.
And this one was like $4,200 shipped.
Oh. Wow.
It's like,
nice.
And it has the fancy control, whereas like the dispatch ones were just like a very generic PLC that they slapped on the oven.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a no-brainer.
Also, 120 volt. I mean, like you said, it's got a more extreme. It's got the like 90 plug thing or whatever.
Yeah,
going
the
on.
high amp plug.
But like, it's very like what that was like the first thing I noticed. Besides the really cool like handle, it was like, oh, it just plugs into the wall.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to like wire like fucking get 208 over there or something and like run it off a welding plug. It's just normal.
Yeah, I was stoked. I was really stoked. And the sales process wasn't that bad. I mean, it still was like buying through any kind of, non-modern company, but the guy knew what he was talking about. They have, I think, only 4 or 5 salesmen for all of the US, and they all have their segment. And he's like, oh, what are you trying to do? And I was like, I want to anneal plastic. He's like, what is the range you want? And I was like, this is the range of temperatures. And he's like, oh, what's the biggest part you'll do? And I was like, probably this size. And he's like, all right, here's the one. Here's your quote. Let us know. And then we bought it, and they sent it within 2 days, I think. And then it took another 2 or 3 days to show up. Freight.
That's not bad.
No, it was easy.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And it was the first thing we received freight in a very long time that was packaged incredibly well and not damaged, which was awesome. Yeah. I hate that is like a bragging thing to say, but
they're like, hey, we won't fuck your shit up. That shouldn't be fucked up anyway.
Right.
You're like, interesting.
Yeah. Because we had both of those global cabinets, the tooling cabinets. I had ordered each of those twice because the first ones got damaged. Turns out actually the second one that got damaged, we get to keep.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you have to hold on to it for 35 business days for the freight company to come do an inspection.
Yeah.
And then I emailed them. I was kind of an asshole and just like kept emailing them and be like, you need to get this out of my shop. Because I thought they were going to take it back no matter what.
Right.
I was like, you need to get this out of my shop. It's taking up a lot of space. And I would just like kept emailing them. And then I emailed them on like the 36th day. And I was like, all right, what are we doing? And they're like, oh, you can just keep it. If they didn't come and inspect it, it's yours now.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
So Brad's going to take it home and use it in his garage. I was like, sweet. All right.
Sick.
Yeah.
I got a badge for the bad boy.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, speaking of which, let's talk about did you post those?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. On the story. And then Brandon, Rad Machining, posted it on his main feed.
Okay.
For IG.
Because those look slick.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that was totally like, this was something like the whole toolbox thing we'd been thinking about before IMTS. And because it just makes our, like, after so many projects where we just don't have everything we need, and you would assume, one assumes what a machine shop could have, and they just don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's been shops where it's like, oh, we need Allen wrenches or whatever, and then it's like, oh fuck, like, oh, I need to cut this pallet up, and they're like, oh, here's a circular saw. It's like, that's what you have, like, at the ready.
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
But no Allens? Really?
Yeah. And so what we just started, like, and like, I think Mini RCR was the one that like really broke it for us, because it's like, dude, this is just painful, especially because there was a machine shop like next door that's theirs, but there's like the owners have like a weird, so they wouldn't let us like I asked them for like a broken end mill, something like, just give me one that's like used. So that, and he's like, no, I'm not allowed to give you anything. And it's like, okay. So like, we just kind of decided, like, I think we're just going to include a fucking toolbox in these projects. And then Justin and Tim were like, oh, these badges that they did for like Toolpath for IMTS. And so I reached out to him, and he like made them, like, and they look so fucking sick. And he put the gold ZC, and like the black in the fucking Zapatini Consulting. So we're going to buy the box and put like, Allen wrenches, dial into like calipers, indicator, mag base, blah, blah, blah. All the shit you need really, like, for the project. And then just take the badge of the toolbox off and put this on there, and just like really go for like more of like a white glove approach to the whole thing.
How are you going to decide what jobs get these? Is that like a dollar amount or a scope? Or
probably, I think it's mostly going to be the level of shop that it's going into.
Okay.
But like if it's a first machine, without question.
Okay.
You know, like there's just like, that's a no-brainer. It has to happen.
So one other question, and I don't know if you've talked to anybody about this, but have you talked to like Joel and your guy from Shunk of like, hey, do you want to throw in a couple tools and a holder or something, and we can, make a little foam for those as well, and you can throw like a little magnet on the side with their stuff.
That's a good suggestion. Be like, yeah, we could probably get that going.
Yeah.
Get that popping. That'd be cool. Yeah, Frasier and Shunk.
Yeah.
This fucking Frasier, Shunk, ZC, fucking the Holy Trinity.
I mean, you could have just like a little vinyl sticker of like CC recommends, and then throw like Joel's card or something, and Shunk's guy's card, and
that would be dope. I like that. Yeah, maybe. But it immediately like, so we haven't got the badges yet, but I did the toolbox thing for the guy up in Washington where John's been working the last couple of weeks, and that project's going really well. It's kind of like a pull out all the stops to make the customer happy, because like we had an opportunity to not be late, and so I was trying really hard to not be late, and I think we'll finish it next week.
Sweet.
So about a week longer than what I think. I need to check, but I think it was 3 weeks or 2 weeks. But I mean, huge effort, like massive effort to get it going. And that he was the first one where it was like, yeah, I bought the toolbox. I just drop shipped it to him. And then like we bought like all this stuff, and he was like, this is so sick. He's like, I had no idea where to start at all. He's like, so this just makes it way easy. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Validation, let's go. Oh,
it really does. I mean, it doesn't cost you that much, and it really looks like, I mean, it's white glove to the extreme.
Yeah. And so, I think I'm gonna do Selway Open House in November.
Oh, sweet.
And I think instead of having a table, I'll just like bring a toolbox, like, and that'll look cooler.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that. That'll be really cool.
Yeah.
And it's flashy with those those badges look
They're
so
fucking
good.
hot. Yeah, I can't wait to see them at some point. I fucking hate this about my life, but it's like I don't know when I'm gonna see it. like John will see it because they're like Brandon's gonna ship one to Washington, so he can put it on the box there, and he's shipping the rest of the shop in Idaho because the next one's going to Idaho.
Okay.
And I think I'll be in Idaho in like 2 weeks or something for that project. So I gotta like wait.
That's so frustrating.
Yes, it is. It is very frustrating. But I got a lot of comments about the whole van life thing. So November 4th, that's coming up in little over a week.
Yeah, a week and a half.
Yeah. Then so what my next travels, I'm in Arizona right now, obviously. Then I'm going to California. I'm going to go to Utah next to grab the van. We'll rip everything out of the van, and then drive that to California to do the job in California. But also the place that's putting the bubble top on the 4th is down there. Okay. So like it works. It's just a lot.
Yeah, well, and I imagine it's frustrating that you're having to rip everything out of the van to then live in an empty van for a couple days before it gets bubble topped.
Yep.
And then who knows when you're going to get back to your stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Is there a place in California you can dump your stuff instead? That way you could just pick it up and go.
Maybe I could. Maybe Hadrian. I don't know. Be like, hey Jamie.
Hey Jamie,
maybe no, like legit, maybe Jamie. I don't know.
Yeah.
Be like, I just need to dump my bed and bed frame here. Is that cool with you?
Right. You can talk to Kevin too.
Kevin. Strom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's up around that area.
We know enough people out there that somebody should be able to babysit your stuff for like 3 days, or it was less than that, wasn't it? Like 1 day that turnaround or something?
Yeah. You like drop it off in the morning and it's done by the afternoon.
Yeah. You're like, can I just pile things in your front yard for 8 hours or something?
Yeah. I'm like, sure.
Yeah. So
fucking come back, my mattress is gone. Fuck.
right.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like it would just suck. I could see you toughing it out and sleeping where the bed was for a couple nights. But if you can not, that'd be better.
Yeah, I'd probably air mattress it.
Yeah.
Just pump it up with like a hand pump. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's exciting though. I'm excited to see the bubble.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be pretty interesting to be able to like stand in that thing. Like, oh, nice. What a life.
Oh boy. That's exciting. But yeah, I'm stoked to see the toolbox. You got to have John take a picture when he puts the badge on.
Yeah.
And send it over.
Post that fucker.
Yeah. I really want to see that. Let's see. We got a couple questions this time.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan from the Patreon asked, or he said, let's talk dirty. If a part is going to anodize, what steps do you take in the process from machining to delivery? Do you take special care cleaning the parts before finishing?
Yeah.
I don't, because my anodizers are awesome.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I guess it depends on how good. That's a very valid point, actually, is like, how good is your anodizer? Because if your anodizer is just like that, like, I mean, some of them, if you don't give them the return packaging, they're going to fuck your parts up.
Right.
Because they're just going to package them however they feel like.
Yeah.
And that's annoying.
Yeah.
But then, and you have a good one that will like clean your parts for you. Like Anodizer Zinc in Idaho, they don't want you to, they'll bead blast your parts. If you need a blast finish, they're like, don't do it. We'll do it.
Oh, interesting.
They want they have like a secret sauce or whatever that they like to do before they anodize, because they know it's gonna like it'll be consistent and look unlike. It'll be consistent and like it'll adhere better or whatever, like the bond. Because that's like the last, I mean, how annoying for them if you fuck up the blast and it's like it's blotchy. It's like that's your fucking fault,
right?
Not mine.
You did this.
Yeah.
I would say that it really depends on your anodizer. Like I think that is a very good way to evaluate anodizers is how well they clean parts, because I think any anodizer worth their salt will know that the quality of anodize is directly linked to how clean the parts are.
Right.
And like they've told us, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
They're like, we will clean it because we know that this is what makes our anodize look good.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for stuff to use, Simple Green Aircraft, the blue label one, is like Boeing certified, which I guess nowadays really kind of is a detriment, but it will not burn aluminum parts, which is nice.
Yeah.
I've heard even in an ultrasonic, it's fairly neutral and won't burn parts. We also used to use a bunch of isopropyl alcohol. We still do to clean parts. Dawn honestly works really well.
Yeah.
Like
it's good enough for ducts. It's good enough for parts.
Right. Yeah. It works incredibly well. Though this is less anodized, but more aircraft stuff. A lot of titanium aerospace drawings will say no chlorinated cleaners. And I believe Dawn is a chlorinated cleaner because it can create stress cracking and stuff downstream.
Right. Interesting.
I don't think that Dawn really would, but if you're going to go letter of the law, I believe that it is chlorinated.
Yeah.
Trying to think. That I would say that those are the big ones. Like I think that Simple Green Aircraft works pretty well. Dunk in that, or like an ultrasonic in that, and then a cleaning bath. And the biggest thing with any of those is that you have to make sure you clean off your cleaner as well, because that will equally screw up anodize.
Right.
But yeah, I would ask some questions of any anodizer you're going to for the first time of what their cleaning process is, and if they're proud of their cleaning process and willing to kind of take you through it, I would say you probably have found a good anodizer.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then, Lone Wolf Precision wanted to know, you were working with him on calibrating his fourth with test blocks, and he wanted to know more about my workflow on the U500 with dialing and the center of rotation. I was cutting test blocks similar to the ones I think you sent him. So I cut the block itself, the outside of it, the top of it, at a 0C0 with a 3/8 end melt, my normal finisher.
Right.
I put a hole in the top and then 4 pockets around the outside with a 3/16.
Yeah.
And then measuring. So what's difficult on the U500 is it's not like other machines. I'm not programming from center of rotation. I'm programming from an arbitrary point and then using G68.2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not adjusting my G54 like you would normally on a 4th axis. I'm adjusting the offset values that the control uses to rotate things in 3D space when it's using G68.2.
Right.
And there are 6 values. There is an XYZ for the tilt and an XYZ for the rotation axis. So for the A and for the C. And so the pocket top to the top of the part is pretty directly linked to the Z value on your tilt axis.
Mm-hmm.
And then pocket left to right, which is the part that I'm still dialing in, is a little bit harder because any adjustment on the tilt X.
Yeah, it's kind of both.
Yeah, it affects both. And so I was telling you just before we started that like I'm under 1,000 now on most of them, or I'm at 1,000 on 2 of them, and then within 3 or 4 tenths on 2 of them, which if they were all 3 or 4 tenths, I'd leave it. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Golden. Let's do it.
Right.
So right now I am making wild swings of adjustments. So like if I think I need 5 tenths, I'll go 1,000 or 1,500 just to make sure that I'm going in the right direction.
Right.
And then I'll back it off.
Yeah. Cause it seems like this is something that I was like, oh, it's off this way. And then I always fucking pick wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, God damn it. So I got to like back it off double the other way. Kind of like fingers crossed it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, and the other thing I wasn't checking in the beginning and now I'm checking is the depth of the pockets, because that is also changed by the parameters.
Correct.
So I need to make sure that not only do I dial in the location of those pockets, but also the depth of all the pockets.
Yeah, because that'll be your X and Y values.
Yes. And I'm still not 100% sure what is what. Yeah. Yamazon's going to send me a document they're creating on what they think is the right one to move.
The table being like at not 0 home or whatever is like so bizarre.
That is because of me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So to fit the Lang plate on there, initially Lang had designed the holes to be at 0.
Yeah.
Because there's a ring of 8 holes. And they were using the 4 that were closest together. And I was like, I don't really like all of the bolts being in the center of the plate like that.
Yeah.
And so I digitally rotated it and was like, oh, if I rotate it 22.5 degrees, I can use the widest out 4 bolts.
Right.
And I'll get better contact between the table and the Lang plate.
I wonder if they have an APZ thing on the Brother like they do on Fanuc. Because on a Fanuc control, you could just like dial it in straight and then you flip a parameter and that would be your new home.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done that for the Z encoder before and I know how to do it. We were talking about that the other day and realistically I should do that anyway.
Yeah.
But it also shouldn't matter.
It
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
For what we're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll probably do it just so that because right now, if I hit Z return on the machine, it goes to the front left corner and then rotates 22.5 degrees.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah.
That is, you were saying how the trunnion is very high. I will say the only thing I don't like about that is tightening the vise that's on the Lang plate and on the small riser.
Yeah.
It's like up at my shoulders now, or like up at mid chest.
Right.
And so it's just like an area I'm not used to tightening a vise at.
Yeah.
And the torque wrench I have is kind of long. So actually I might have a slightly off center homing that I might have Phil put in the post so that like the vise is just inside the left of the door so that there's plenty of room for me to get my arm in there and tighten.
Interesting. Yeah. That is interesting.
Yeah. It's crazy though, because we realized we now have one, or we've owned one of every generation of Speedio. So like XD, or not XD, X1, X2, and now XD1. And it is crazy to see just the little improvements. Like walking around, there are bits in the casting. So on the X1 behind the enclosure, between the enclosure and the electronics cabinet,
Right.
on the casting, there was these two flats.
Yeah.
And actually what would happen is coolant would come out of little holes by the spindle and then drip down there and then create a pool of coolant concentrate on those flats. And then we noticed, on the X2, those are now angled. And then there's a hole in the middle to drain back into the coolant tray.
Oh, cool.
I was like, cool. And then I looked, and on the XD1, it's more angled, and the hole is now there. The whole thing is angled down, and the holes are all the way at the back towards the coolant tray. So it like is forced back down there.
Right. Nice.
And it's little stuff like that I'm like, it's really cool to see incremental improvement.
That is cool.
On what is basically the same casting for however many years now.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And it's quieter. Like there's new servos and drives compared to the old machines. So it's much quieter.
Screen is cool.
Screen's nice.
Yeah.
The key stuff is annoying.
Right.
Not being able to open the door and pause the machine with it is frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it is a much more powerful control for sure.
Yeah. They held off for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a good job of like, because I mean, they were one of like the only machines that still let you do that before.
Yeah.
Now almost everybody, you have to like turn something, you have to push something or do something.
Well, and I think it's going to be a bigger change for Brad because he hasn't been running the Hermla.
Right.
Whereas me, I'm used to like, all right, I got to pause it. I got to hit the door thing. I got to hold the little massage button to turn back on the spindle.
Yeah.
I don't know what that button's called, but it literally looks like two hands massaging somebody's neck. I'm sure it's just like the keep hands out button or something. Right. Dead man switch, whatever.
It's the happy ending button.
Yeah. It's the blue happy ending button to turn back on the spindle. So for me, it's not been that big of a deal. But just little things like the control automatically backs up to a USB every time you turn it on now. Nice. Every time you turn it off, I think too.
Yeah.
You can take screenshots and it saves it to the drive, which is super cool.
Yeah.
It's got like a file reader on it, so I can send prints to it. It's got a calculator built in. It's got a notepad. So rather than like leaving Post-it notes, I can just pull up the digital thing and say like, don't run. Leave it over the screen.
Right.
Yeah. Stupid stuff like that. That's just really cool.
Like Fanic 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the IHMI's had that stuff for like a while.
I have not run a modern IHMI machine. So
I mean, it's very interesting, like to see the, like how Brother and RoboDrill are like going at each other, you know, because it seems like Brother mostly made like the control stuff is similar, but like kind of just going for slightly cheaper, faster, whatever on the machine, more tools, more ranges of like travels and like different configurations. And Fanic's kind of just like been Fanic, but they updated the control more, I guess, like further away. Like the IHMI came out like 7 years ago.
Oh wow.
Or something like that, like 2017. And it was dog shit initially. Like that sucked. And it still kind of sucks. Like it's slow. Just slow. But it is like it has all those functions. Most people don't use them. Well, actually, most people, almost everybody that I go to that has that, they just don't use it. They use the old, they let you go into the old way. And if you go, like almost everybody just uses the old way.
Right.
Like this is worse.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to yourself?
What I'm very excited about is there's a new firmware coming that has an updated thermal compensation now. So the Brother ones, and I'm pretty sure Robo doesn't have a thermocouple as well. Like I don't know how Robo does their
math.
Okay, so the one currently is math. It's just spindle time plus axis time, and they have calculated at the factory like that's what this means in terms of growth, and then it averages them together for Z and then X and Y or whatever. The new one has a function built in where you can give it points like a gauge pin or something that you mount on the table and it'll probe that. And you can just fire off these M codes and either give it like a macro sub to go probe it, or it'll do something internally, but it'll just go probe that same gauge pin throughout the process and update. And then as it it will do the math too. And if it's like, oh, there's not going to be enough growth, I can just skip the probing this time.
Yeah.
And then
the RoboDrill does that too.
Does it?
Yeah. I think I mean, well, I know for sure that it is capable of doing that and has been capable of doing that for like at least a decade.
Okay.
But do people do it?
Right.
No. Like that's the thing.
Yeah. No. This is built as an app on the home screen.
That's baller. Like that's the shit that like Brother's doing. That's like really dope. Cause it's like the biggest issue with Fanic is that it's just not like
accessible.
All the shit is there. Right. Just like nobody like shows you how to use it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, it's like, oh, well, Fanic doesn't do this. Like, yes, it does. But the guy who showed you how to do it doesn't know how to do that.
Right.
So yeah, like them building it as an app is like, oh, of course. Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah. The other one that Scott, our apps guy, showed us is there's a table load automatic sensor that will optimize all the rotary rapids. Ooh. So you go in and you're like tilt axis, calculate, optimize. You're like in MDI and you hit cycle start and it rotates the A90, rotates back, does all the calculations on the back end and optimizes the curve for that servo. And then they'll do C and like go 90 one way and then 270 the other way. And it's like, okay, I know the load on the table now and it'll optimize for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Sick. All right.
Yeah.
And that's another one. Like you just go to the home button, you go to like machine optimization or something. And then it's not, I will say none of these apps are intuitive.
Right.
Because like he showed us the first day that he helped install the machine. And Brad and I were like, yeah, we got that. And then Monday came around, like he did it on a Friday. Monday came around, we're like, oh, we should probably do that. And both of us looked at each other, we're like, how do we do that?
Right.
We got to the screen, and I was like, I don't remember what buttons we pressed from here. And so when he was here yesterday, I was like, hey, can I take a video while you do that? So I know for sure that I know how to do that.
Yeah.
And it's really not hard. But like, you
don't know the sauce.
I don't know the sauce. And like all the text on the screen is kind of poorly translated.
Yeah.
And so I read through it all and I was like, I still don't know what's going on.
Yeah. You start like, and like, what are you going to do? Start pushing buttons?
Right. Yeah. Like I remembered that I needed to be an MDI. And then I got to the page. And there's like 3 things that you can toggle to optimize, but you're only optimizing the first one. And I didn't remember that part. And then there was like something like some small soft key in the bottom right hand corner that you have to hit, and then you hit cycle start.
Oh, interesting.
And I had like I like kind of fumbled through and remembered to turn on the first switch. Then I didn't remember the soft key, so when I hit cycle start, it just didn't do anything.
Interesting. All right. I will say, from a Fanic perspective, this is something Matsura does really well. Mm-hmm. Like all their stuff that guides you through anything, like because they built the Axi set, they call it the Easy 5, which is basically just an Axi set that they wrote themselves. It's just like an app or whatever on the control, and it tells you exactly what to do. Like put it here, put the ball here this way, put the probe over top of it, then hit this button.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you do that, and then it just runs.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, nice. It's like, why doesn't every fucking builder do this?
Yeah.
And it's like, because you're going to buy the machine anyway, you fucking
Well, and I think that's probably the one drawback so far of having the Hermla before we got the U500 is that I'm used to a company that has been doing 5-axis for a long time.
Right.
And so like the kinematics on a Hermla are just dead simple.
Yeah.
Like it's a cycle. And like I did at the beginning have to look up a few of the settings.
Right.
But now it's just in my MDI and I just bring the probe over the top of the ball wherever it is.
Yeah.
And I just hit go and it finds the ball and does its whole thing and writes it to the screen and shows you how far it updated the values. And I never have to think about it again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I am hoping, it will be that good at some point, whether that means we go to AxiSet or figure out our own macros or something. I mean, the math is not quantum physics. Like it's geometry.
Mean, honestly, like, and I know he'll be listening, but like, just ask Justin. He'll fucking lose his mind to write that macro.
already talked to Justin. And he already,
he's like, I'm fucking writing it right now.
Exactly.
It's like, no, Justin.
Yeah. As we've talked about, I brought it up to him and he was like, oh, well, we'll do it together. I'm like, no. Like I don't want to add more to your plate. You are busy enough. And he's like, no, we'll do it right now.
He is I think I don't know if it was on mic, but I said Jeff Tiedekin is the king of productive procrastination. That's a lie. It's Justin. Justin is by far like, yeah, he's just like, he's so down for like any cause at any point in time.
Well, especially if it's problem solving. Like he is a master problem solver.
You want me to solve not my problem? Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Using math and stuff. Oh, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. He helped me like on the Squidjig project, get some programming done.
Oh, sweet.
And set up and do the machine sim stuff for the 4th. Sick. Which was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. He's fantastic.
He's like, I just want to learn. He's like, sure, I'll help. Like I was going to do this anyway. And it's like, okay. Cool.
Oh man. Yeah.
Nice. So, Simon had a question. Mm-hmm. When are you coming to London?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to come soon, but we'll see.
Right. I know. I was telling you, I booked a little baby trip to get my head tattooed. I'm just committing. I was like, I'm fucking balding anyway. Fuck it. I'll just shave it all off and get it tattooed, and then I'll let it grow back. I wear hats anyway, so like,
there you go.
Who cares?
Problem solved. Yeah. We're going into winter. We wear hats and beanies and all that stuff. So
yeah, I don't care. It's if the throat tattoo doesn't bother people, the head tattoo won't bother people either. It's like, can you make the parts? Can you do the job?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's probably a good litmus test for where you want to be working.
Yeah.
Like if you see somebody and they're like, oh no, you can't come in here with those tattoos. Peace. Yeah. You're like, actually, I didn't want to work together anyway. That's right.
Yeah. Well, let me check eat my ass.
Yeah. Oh man. I think that's about it on my end. Like things have been going well, but like nothing mind blowing. Like it really, even more than usual. It's just been a lot of like head down, grinding hard.
Right.
Tons of like surfacing work in the Hermla, which has been really long cycle times, which is great actually. Like I don't know. There's like a bell curve of like where if something's too short of a run, it sucks. And then like a 30-45 minute cycle is like awesome. And then I've had a lot of parts recently that are like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I'm like, ooh, I've got really long days ahead of me because I just have to get these done. And I've had a lot of those long cycles and then it's been like a lot of late nights and then a lot of frustrating things because I've been moving as well and had issues with the house I moved into.
Yeah. The things that you were texting me, it's like, how would you even fucking know that like ahead of time? I
think I truly don't think it's been malicious. So to give everybody context, we moved into a new place. The master shower leaked into the wall and started flooding the bedroom and the closet next door or in the next room.
Mm-hmm.
The master toilet leaked between the porcelain bits onto the floor every time you flushed it. The master sink didn't really open, so it just started like stopping up.
And
then like the spare bathroom vent fan was broken, which was like the most mild thing, but like all of this within 24 hours of moving in that we found out.
Right.
And I honestly think so. Like my house is owned by like 2 brothers or something. And I really think that they just had somebody move out and the person just never told them that there was issues or something.
Right.
And because he immediately got somebody on it the next day.
Oh, that's good.
Granted, it didn't super inspire confidence because it was just some random dude in a truck, like a handyman that he knows or something. And so I was like, oh, great. This is why it's not working. But the guy was super nice and got it done. And nothing's leaking right now. So
he didn't have to like rip open the wall or anything.
No, he somehow got it all worked. I don't know if it's just like filled with tape and bubble gum, but
as long as it doesn't, I mean, That's one of those things where you're like, thank God I don't own this fucking place.
Yes. But it's a super nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's much, I don't know, just like so quiet. Like the place that I was living was fairly close to a hospital. So like we would have sirens go by at all hours of the night.
Interesting.
It's a longer commute, which sucks, but I don't know. Like
where is it?
Much more north.
Oh, more north.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a longer commute. Like I think Brad and I have a very similar 40-minute commute now.
Oh shit.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
But it's more room and all that stuff. So I'm fine with it for now.
Nice.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's what I keep telling myself.
I mean, it's gonna be fine.
I have a garage now again too.
Oh,
which is
sick.
great.
Yeah.
So
MR2?
No.
Oh, no.
No. Hopefully that sells soon.
Are you selling it?
I just want, I am at the point in my career where I just want a boring car that gets me from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And I don't have to work on it. And it's not my problem if it breaks. I can just give it to the dealership or whatever. This will not be my last project, but I need to come to a project from a place of stability.
Interesting.
And right now I've just had like a series of shit boxes for years now, and they've all been in some sort of disrepair.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I feel like every one of my cars sucks.
Right.
Except for the BMW.
Well, I think I told you when we went to Phoenix for that to test the U500, we like rented a Chevy Malibu, like a 2023.
Interesting.
And we were both like, ugh, what a piece of junk. And then both Brad and I, by the end of it, were like, I really hate to say this, but we kind of like it.
Yeah. It's very funny that you rented a car to drive 2 hours.
Yeah.
I love that.
We both, have shit boxes. And
you don't drive the Datsun up there?
No. No, and he didn't want to drive the Trooper up there. And his Beamer is being worked on and engine swapped right now.
Of course.
So, but like, it was, a fairly base model, but it had Android Auto and had a little turbo 1.5 liter that had a decent amount of power. And it was just uneventful. We were both like, are we old enough to the point where like uneventful is nice?
Yes.
And the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got enough going on with all of this that like the last thing I need is the possibility of my car breaking down on the way to work.
Yeah. Justin says it well with like the whole margin thing. Like when your margins are thin, like emotionally or like at capacity or whatever, when you have other things like when you already have no margin, your car breaking down is going to like fuck your whole day, like fuck your life, like instantly.
Yeah. Well, I had a rough, solid week because like I had all of that stuff happen with the house, plus all of the issues of the U500, and I think I had one other thing happen, and then I was like reaching my breaking point. Like any one of them would have been totally fine.
I'm really proud of us for not crying on mic.
Yeah, it was a rough week. It was just like if any other thing had gone wrong, I would have just been done.
Right.
Like 100%. No, just been like, I give up on all of this and I'm just going to go sleep.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I totally understand the margin thing.
Yeah.
That's real. That's very real.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But besides that, it's all good. It's looking up. Got the house stuff got fixed. The U500 stuff is looking good. I'm feeling good again.
Yeah.
Where we dug ourselves, like we were also behind on a bunch of orders just due to like random stuff. Like some of the stuff, like the first plan didn't go well, and some of the stuff, like the Delrin stuff, like it warped on me, and I had to create a whole nother fixture for Op2. And, but like within the span of 48 hours, we knocked out like a series of orders back to back to back.
That always feels so good.
Right. It like, I thought it was very funny that you and I had a very similar solving of many projects.
Yes, dude. I mean, like I was like, what was it? Monday? Monday. I was like, literally, that's where like the cry and crush came from, right? Whereas like I was literally on the verge of tears like all day, and then I like a song came on or something, and like the weirdest, like these guys were all in the break room, like the whole company was in the break room because like there was like it's Halloween in Massachusetts or like October in Massachusetts, so they had like a paranormal investigator, like giving a presentation in the break room or whatever.
Sure.
And it was like, all right. And then I'm just like, and I'm like working and this song comes on and I'm just like fucking sobbing behind the machine. And then, but it's like the wildest thing about it is like being on the verge of tears / crying the whole time is like, it's like effectively, but still being like effective and like reprogramming their part and cutting half the cycle time down.
Right. Well, that's what you texted
like
me. You're like,
6
I am
hours.
literally sobbing, but on a good note, I just cut their cycle time in half. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah. And they were like, and I had been there, and this was like really what it was is, I mean, well, there's just been a lot of like, I don't know, unresolved grief and like trying to like, I mean, over like the last few months, like replacing, like ignoring my grief for fucking work. And then when work didn't go well, now I'm confronted with both of those things at the same time. And now it's like, oh, there's no escape from anything. And so I just like I just broke for a while. And then like the whole like red eye to Baltimore, driving 6 hours, sleep for 2, then go to the shop thing doesn't help that whole situation either.
No.
And I'm just like fucking like I'm mad because these guys are being like weird about it and like cut the cycle time in half. And they're like, well, the parts are like good, but they're not nominal.
Right.
And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? I told them, these guys, I told them to, I was like, this is the most annoying experience I have doing this job. And he's like, what? I was like, this. Right. He's like, oh, us? And it's like, yeah, it's like, we're making good parts twice as fast as how you were doing it before and hitting like better dimensions than you were before. And it's not good enough. So like, what are we doing? Like, you want to hit nominal, then what the fuck is the tolerance for?
Right.
And like we're like checking this, like we go, the thing is like the parts we were making before were better, is what he was saying. And it's like, okay, well, like, let's go look at those. And they weren't.
Really?
Yeah.
So you never told me that part, that they weren't better.
No, they weren't. They were at one point, like we checked the data from like a couple batches, and the batch that was right before this batch was slightly worse than what we were getting. And then but there was a batch at some point that was like dead fucking nuts.
Oh.
And then like, well, I don't like what happened. They're like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know either. Like, it kind of makes me wonder if they're like probing routine or something is off. But there was, I have probably fixtures. If you want to make some fixtures, they need fixtures made.
Okay.
We have a new deal. Well, so this is the thing is they're like, we don't want to bring on a new supplier. And I was like, well, I'm a vendor, so I could just buy them and you could buy them for me. And they're like, done.
Oh man.
So weird.
So dumb. The games you have to play sometimes.
Right.
Like listening to our last episode together, you were talking about your corporate customers being like, oh, well, we'll just buy the travel from this account. And this just feels like squarely in that same bucket of like, oh, well, we'll just buy the fixtures from you because we don't want to onboard anybody else.
Right.
It's like, okay.
It's like, because our process sucks. And it's like, and they're like, oh, but Xometry's so cheap. And like, they're so fast. And it's like, these fixtures are bad. Like, you keep telling me how bad they are. They're like, but Xometry, they're so fast and they're so much cheaper than everybody else. It's like, but it doesn't hold the part correctly. Right. Like, you ask for a thou flatness and it's 20 thou. Like, it's not even fucking close.
Right.
Like, what are we even talking about?
Well, that's a lot of people don't understand what flatness is.
Yeah.
As I've seen many a time on Instagram and stuff.
They're Teflon.
They wanted a thou flat in Teflon?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no. I don't want to make these fixtures. I'm done.
The other one is aluminum.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I'll hold a thou flat all day in aluminum.
Yeah.
Teflon, you look at it wrong. I'll make it good here, and then I'll ship it to you, and the heat in the plane will warp it.
What we kind of decided on that one was to cut it, like to essentially use 2 plates and cut it in a in a constrained state.
Smart.
And then that whole unit gets bolted to the fifth. So it like never gets unbolted.
Mhm.
Like, so the last op is constrained, always constrained. And then that just stays together.
There you go.
And I think that's the only way to do it.
Yeah. That's Teflon sucks.
Yeah.
I very much try not to machine it if I can help it.
Yeah.
It's not my forte.
All right.
Alrighty, man. Last questions. What have you been researching?
I guess I did. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've researched like anything. Fuck, have I? No. I think I've just been like mostly head down working.
No.
Yeah, not this week. I mean, still van stuff, you know, like occasionally on and off. I mean, like I'm back in therapy, so I'm not researching that, but
Good.
I'm doing it. And have I been researching? No, not really. It's just been a lot of work and like working and trying to rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's been the biggest thing.
Okay.
So no research.
That's fine.
Yeah. What about you?
Let's see. Been doing a little bit of looking into other cam systems.
All right.
Nothing concrete worth sharing yet, but I guess really the only thing that I've come away with so far is like Fusion has its flaws, but like, man, it's pretty good. Like
It's
UI wise is like, man, it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously annealing plastics, finding like we've been using Bodecker has a annealing plastic page with like a bunch of recipes. We've been using those ones so far. They seem like they've been working. We'll see long term if that's what we end up with.
Right.
There's a bunch of them out there. The cool thing with that oven is I can name them all too.
Oh, cool.
And just keep them in the memory.
Sick.
Yeah. And realistically, what I need to do is hook that thing up to the network too, because then I can monitor it and control it directly from my computer.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, which would be great. Past that, I don't think really much.
It's been a lot of work.
Dude, it's been a lot of work. It's like the last few weeks have been a bear.
Yeah.
A real struggle.
Really fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And
we're doing good work. Like we're both like you said, crushing is good.
Yeah.
It's just
very
been tough.
Because it's like, would you be happier working for somebody else? Like, no. I like this would suck, dude. Like, because my mentality doesn't stop. Like, like that was when I talked to Andrew Henry for like fucking 2.5 hours the other day. Mm-hmm. That was like one of the things that we were like talking about is like working for somebody else and for like taking a salary, and would that do it for you, you know? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Because like you have the owner mindset. So you're going to put in the effort as if you own the place, but now you just make some other asshole a fucking bunch of money instead of making this asshole a bunch of money.
Right. Well, and then that's the problem too, is like, I've thought about that. Like, oh, I could go be a engineer somewhere and be making good money and not have to worry about this. But like either A, I would work myself until I was miserable again.
Right.
Or B,
3 to 5 months.
It would take, 6 months and I'd be scheming on my next business idea. I'd be like, okay, now it's time to dedicate all my outside time to the new business idea.
Right.
So I think that's a very good thing to remind ourselves of. It's like, it might suck right now, but like, it's better than working for somebody else.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
For us, at least.
Right.
Not for everybody. I know plenty of people who struggle with that kind of motivation and don't have that, like, I'll just grind until it works, or, or I fail. Like, I
just got to like, grind myself into dust. Fee, fi, fo, fum, baby. Let's go. Like,
that needs to be a shirt. I like that. All right. What about tip for the week?
I guess I'll go. Oh, are we sticking with the abstract concrete thing?
I mean, that
pragmatic
seems to be kind of the way.
because I think I'm gonna go with boundaries as the one, and like maybe not boundaries or whatever, like specifically, but like that's been, or like just trying to set. I mean, more sane people probably do this already, but like I'm trying to like cut my work off at like 10 p.m. instead of midnight, or 1 p.m. and like try and get like actual sleep and like
you have been too.
I have been.
There's been a few nights where I've texted you at like 11 expecting a response, and then I don't get one until the next morning. I'm like, sweet, good for him.
It's really bizarre, but it feels good. It's so like, and then just like, the one of the things that came out of that like comes out of that course is you're not required to set yourself on fire to like warm other people, which is like a really interesting way of saying like there's just no point in killing yourself for like other assholes, like kind of. And like, again, this is something that I think most people do already, which is they just take care of like the people that matter instead of like working themselves to death. But that's been like something that's I've been really, really working on to like not go fucking crazy.
Right.
And you're going to be like, so sandpaper.
No, well, I was kind of thinking not along sandpaper lines, but we were talking a little bit before this, and this is a hard won lesson, I think, that I keep coming up against is material stresses and dealing with them.
Yes.
I mean, I think this is obvious to a lot of people, but taking off even amounts of material on both sides will mean less stress inherently on anything. The other part of that is if you are encountering a part that should be a simple 2-op part, but it's warping out of tolerance in the second op, don't spend so much time trying to figure out op 1 and op 2 to eliminate the stress when adding an op 3 will solve it.
Yeah.
So we had that this week with like they were relatively simple 316 parts that both Brad and I looked at and were like, cakewalk, two ops, no problem. A little bit of surfacing, they look cool, whatever. He took them out after op 2 and like had a giant 5 or 6 thou bow on one end.
Yeah.
We spent maybe an hour because they ran for a little bit. Like they were surfacing with a 1 millimeter ball and a 2 millimeter ball, I think, on the second side. And so we spent like an hour, wasted 2 more parts trying to sort out op 1 and op 2, and then finally like we were eating lunch and I was like, just add an op 3, like just leave stock on the first side in op 1 and then go back in op 3 and do it and do your engraving last. And he was like, all right.
And
then he did it and they were they were parallel and consistent within about 5 or 6 microns across the entire part.
That's pretty good.
It's like, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like, especially this is something I struggle with a lot, like mostly just because the nature of a project versus like a job shop work is adding an operation is kind of like a big ask. It's like, it's a 2-op part and it becomes 3, like people are losing their minds.
Right.
But that being said, like I completely agree. I was just talking to like it came up because we were just talking to somebody, or I was just talking to somebody about this very thing where like, I want to cut these parts in 2 operations. And it's like, okay, but it's not working.
Yeah.
So don't.
Right.
And
this was 6 parts, 1 of each. So like it added maybe a sum total of 30 minutes for 6 parts.
Yeah. And it is very interesting, I guess, to that point in like the like going more abstract would be like kill your darlings, like just don't, if it's not working, it's not working. Like you're going to spend more time trying to make a fucking bad process work than just like pivoting to like a third.
So what sucks too is the second you said kill your darlings, it reminded me the week prior I had again, I think this is just ego, maybe like that you don't want to add the second op or the third op. But like since getting the Hermla, I've tried to make every a one-op part and just sand the tab off or something. And there was one 316 part that I thought I had a very good process to do it in one op. And then the parts ran because of this stupid feature that I had to surface in 316. They ran for like 2.5 hours or something, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I scrapped 3 of them in a row because like the first one, like it had chatter and I was like, oh, I can fix that by doing this.
I remember you telling me about this. Like,
and then I ran the second one
where you didn't think it was going to chatter.
The face I was so worried about.
Yeah.
Totally fine. And then the one that I was like, oh, this is a cakewalk. I know how to handle this.
Yeah.
Could not get it to work.
That sucks.
And then I ordered more material, cut it, planned to do a second op, and the F600 first part came off perfect.
Yeah.
And it literally would have saved me 10 hours if I had just not been so egotistical of like, well, I've got to do everything this way because I've got a 5-axis.
And I think like that's an interesting, like we're going to keep talking forever, but like that is like that. It just kind of snowballs that like there is seemingly at no point in your life where you get to that, like, where that drops, because you're in that, because the 5-axis is still new to you, you're still in that every, like when you're a hammer, everything's a nail mentality. And like that with the one-opping of everything. Cause it's like, and that is with, I feel like every new trick you learn in anything, like dynamic or like adaptive. I'm an adaptive everything. It's like, why did you do that? That's a contra pass.
Right. Yeah. Like that little slot that you took 10 minutes to adaptive, just slot it.
Yeah.
Like a normal person.
Yeah. You could have just ramped down it. It would have been fine. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I could have. And that's just like, but you just need to go through that, unfortunately.
Yeah. It just sucks.
Because we've also talked about this before. It's like anyone could have told you beforehand, just do the second op, and you'd have been like, fuck off. I'm going to do it in one.
100%. Yeah. Well, that would have made it worse. That it would have been a challenge.
Yeah.
And I will show you that I can do it in one op.
Yeah. You don't think I can eat this whole cake? Fuck you. Right. Watch me eat this whole cake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that I continue. Because even Brad saw this part, and the one I'm running right now that I showed you tonight when you came by, he was like, oh, are you going to try to one-op that? And I was like, nope, I'm just going to do it in 2. It's an easy second op. It's just facing off the back, cutting off the top hat. Yeah. Easy peasy. Like, there's no reason to overcomplicate this.
Yeah. That one looks like it would be kind of a bastard to do.
I think I have a way that I could do it, but I'm not going to screw around with it.
I can think of ways to do it. And I did, like, there was a point, like, and I know I've talked about this, where I used to do a lot of one-opping, but then now with the job that I have, it's just not a thing. Like not nobody, like people just aren't really into, like, it's not as predictable as you need it to be.
Right.
For like production.
Yeah. I've said it 100 times over this podcast that like this trade continually humbles you and finds new ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that this is
fucking truth.
This is the new way that's humbling me, is like, I'm way out over my skis, trying a lot of new things, and like, I'm gonna fall a lot.
Right.
Like, I just, unfortunate but true.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it. I'm learning a lot. I'm not enjoying, like, what sucked especially about that part that took so long, not the one that Brad was doing, but the one I was doing 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Is that I like ran one, scrapped it. It was 8 o'clock. I ran one, scrapped it. It was like 11 o'clock. And I was like, I really want to ship this tomorrow. It needs to be on time. And so then I stayed till like 1:30 or 2, and it still didn't make a good part. And like, that was the part where I was really starting to lose my mind. I was like,
I will say, good, that's a bold move to go for the. I think after I would have scrapped 2, I probably would have been like, done with this. not done for the night, but I think I would have been done with the one-opping.
Yeah, should I have been?
Yeah,
100%.
At the same time, like, you were in the thick of it, and it was 11 at night, so you're not making the best decisions. So
I certainly was not.
Yeah.
No, not even a little bit. I fully know that I screwed up and that's not what I should have done.
Mm-hmm.
But
this is a weird one with the one headphone.
Oh yeah,
hearing you actually you and then in the microphone you is very interesting.
Yeah, but I fully know that I should not have done that now. But at the time, I was like, oh, if I just do one more and do this change, I was doing stuff like slowing things way down, or oh, I need to leave more material here so that when I come in and take off the back and tab, up to a tab, it'll be fine. Right. And I was certain that I was doing right by me, and I wasn't. So I don't know. You just kind of live and learn, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's about it, man.
I think that's it.
I think
we did it.
All I've got left is Patreon thank yous, because we got a few.
Hell yeah.
We have got Kyle, Diego, Justin, Gregory, Offworld Gear, Preston, Eric Larson, Evan, Jared, and Ryan. Thank you guys for joining the Patreon. You let me and Chris shoot the shit every now and again in person, and let me send mics to guests who don't have them. So Thank you all for listening, and I will be back next week.
Let's go.